Okay, and I guess we're live now. So, hello everyone. My name is Eddie Grizzy. I guess you know me. And you are watching the YouTube Live brought to you by BlockShow by Cointelegraph. And today our guest is David Moskowitz. Hey, David.
Hey, thanks for having me on today.
My pleasure. Really, really happy to have you today. So, our guest is David Moskowitz. He's the director at Taurus, co-founder at Indorse, and member at Singapore-based Access Group. Is everything right, David?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm a board member of the local cryptocurrency and blockchain association called Access here in Singapore. I'm a co-founder of two companies, one called Indorse, which does digital certificates, diplomas on the blockchain for some of the local universities here, and also a co-founder of Indorse, which is a new project that we're working on, that we're doing the token sale for. That one is decentralized network for professionals.
Yeah, we'll talk about these projects a little bit later, especially about the Indorse. Yeah, would like to add that David will be a speaker at the upcoming BlockShow Asia by Cointelegraph conference in Singapore in November. And I'm really happy about that. So as for BlockShow Asia, with dear friends and viewers, you can find the link to it in the description to this video and learn more about it. But be sure that it will be one of the most valuable and brightest blockchain event for you.
Hey Eddie, so the big question that I have as a speaker, do I get one of those awesome caricatures done of me?
For sure. And moreover, all of the guests and everybody who will be actually joining BlockShow Asia will have a special avatar
Yeah.
drawn exactly in our BlockShow by Cointelegraph style. So
that's super important because my co-founder has one already. He had an article done by you guys when he did his prenup on the blockchain, and I haven't gotten one yet. So he's been holding it over my head since that point.
my
So
bad.
I finally.
That can be done soon. So for all speakers, we draw such avatars, and when you click on the speaker, it begins smiling. So it's like that. It's like
Oh, cool.
when you click on it. Yeah. So guys, if you want to see all of the upcoming ICOs, project releases, valuable content, and meet the whole blockchain community, hurry up and click on BlockShow Asia right in the description because the prices are going up on Friday. So, okay. Let's go straight into our discussion. Really great to have you, David, and what we are going to speak with you about today. So me and you, we've been in the community for quite a while. I guess I've been working in the community since 2014. And when actually you joined the blockchain?
So I first really dove into it full time 2013. I had heard about it very briefly in 2011. One of my friends had mentioned it. I didn't think very much of it. I think I remember looking at a chart and it was in the single digits, if there, at that point. And I said, okay, I'm okay with PayPal and these other things for now because I was working on subscription systems and doing payments with the traditional network. 2013 rolls along and it comes to my attention again.
Yeah.
And I start to think like there's something there, and I start to dig into it. I start to buy a little bit. I try to arbitrage a little bit, unsuccessfully. Especially at that time with very low volumes and Mt. Gox issues and everything else. Fortunately, I never had very much on it, and I always pulled it right off, so I was okay with that. But yeah, so I kind of got my feet wet pretty early on. Noticed that I had all these accounts set up. I had an understanding of Bitcoin by that point, a really good understanding. I knew how it operated. I knew how to buy and sell. I thought, this would actually be quite interesting to help other people here in Singapore buy and sell. So I set up a brokerage in Singapore to do that. So over 2013 until 2015, I was able to help hundreds of people buy their first Bitcoin, sell Bitcoin. In fact, if you bought Bitcoin from me between 2013 and 2015 and held it, you would have made a bit of money, which is awesome.
Very interesting because I've been in the community also like from 2014, and my favorite question is, are you a Bitcoin millionaire?
No, unfortunately, we wound up selling quite a bit over the time period as well.
The
So
same.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It really depends on also when you got in on it. So I know people who've done in, got in when it was like under $1, at which point, even $1,000 worth would be worth a couple of $1 million at this point. So even if you sold a little bit over the years, it wouldn't have affected it so much. But later on, when you and I got in, the massive rise had already happened, so we weren't able to participate in that so much.
I've once been to a castle in Estonia, which was bought by a Bitcoin millionaire.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the fact is that in 2014, I was 21, I guess, or something, and I didn't even think about like buying or selling. I was more learning how to do business actually, and I bought Bitcoin at something around 500, and in 2014 it was going down and down and down and down, and I sold it then. So I was pretty stupid. Now I'm not doing like that. Okay, so yeah, let's return to our discussion. So yeah, let's speak about the evolution of crypto company business model. So you as a blockchain enthusiast and one of the early adopters, so how did it look like in that, let's say, Bitcoin and blockchain Wild West, and how it really evolutionized up to this moment?
Yeah, so 2013 was the year that exchanges and remittance services were really being built on top of Bitcoin. It seemed like the most obvious business model. You help someone move a little bit of money from point A to point B. You take a small spread on that, and perhaps you can do it more efficiently than traditional exchanges or traditional money movers can do it. So a lot of people were very interested in that. There was a lot of money flowing into that model. So you had a kind of the starting point to help people enter the system. And then you also had some other interesting exchanges being built to do some leverage trading, things like Magner, which was called something else previous to that, but I forget, which allowed you to do options trading and things like that. They're still around. And BitMEX, I think, was also started around that time period as well. So you started to have these transactional systems being built, these things to help people move money, speculate, and buy in and out of the system. Coinbase as well would be an early example of that. And you had those popping up all over the world. And then once you had those popping up all over the world, people started looking at it as, can we do remittance using this platform now? So that was kind of the early evolution or the early business model, 2013, 2014, even into a little bit into 2015, I would say. People were still somewhat focused on that sort of business model. But you also started to have people beginning to experiment with block assets, crypto assets, with the evolution into Omni and Counterparty being built on top of Bitcoin's blockchain.
Yeah, and I do remember the times. Actually, I was working for Cointelegraph as a marketing and a sales director. And I remember dozens of exchanges coming to us and saying, like, "Hey guys, we want to do really huge sums for advertising." Like they were really investing a lot of money. And what happened then? Most of the exchanges that were built, I remember it was the beginning of January 2015, all of them were hacked. So
yep.
Yeah, maybe we can compare this situation to what's going on now, because we saw huge
a lot of similarities
and hacks then going.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of similarities of that kind of Wild West of exchanges in 2013 to 2015, and now somewhat of the Wild West of ICOs happening now, with the hacks happening in that area. So that's actually a very, very, very astute.
Yeah, fully agree. And so at that very moment, the market was very, very, let's call it primitive. So there were not so many businesses going. So everything was like, hey, I made this coin. I made a clone of Bitcoin or something like
the altcoin bubble. Yep, that was the bubble. So actually, the altcoin bubble or the altcoin explosion of 2014, 2015 is also being mirrored again. Yeah, very, very observant of you.
Yeah, and then there were Bitcoin exchanges like an altcoin exchange.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought I turned it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, there were Bitcoin exchanges, there were wallets, and now we see a whole ecosystem with the when Ethereum took off, right? It really became, I can't say mainstream, but people understood that they should build ecosystems rather than just copy paste already existing projects, right? So
yeah, I think also what you saw early on was a lot of companies finding that they had to build a lot of horizontals, right? So
Yeah.
they, for example, Coinbase is a good example where they had, the brokering business, but then they also saw, well, we actually need to provide some merchant services. So they started to build that kind of merchant interface system on it. So I think you saw a lot of that early on too.
Yeah, as for merchants, actually, I do remember how in 2014 it all started, and there were a lot of talks about the Bitcoin implementation as a payment method and mass adoption of it. So what has changed since 2014? Because at that time, the Bitcoin was very had a really bad reputation, and everyone was thinking that if you accept Bitcoin as a payment method, that you equal yourself to all these terrorists and drug dealers. So what has changed since that moment?
Yeah, I think that a lot of those payment processors realized that doing these small transactions with very little margin was not a very easy business. It was a very difficult business model, and some of them have pivoted into helping larger businesses do larger transactions now. So one of the companies here in Singapore is called CoinPip. What they do is they help SMEs do transactions cross-border and pay employees in multiple locations or partners in multiple jurisdictions using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies as kind of the back end rails. So I think you've seen a transition from a consumer level product in that area into a SME or a B2B product. But at the same time, you are seeing again people going after the consumer segment with companies like 10x offering the credit card, which is also popular again in 2014, 2015. They just found a new model to make it work.
Interesting thing here. The most popular thing in 2014 and 15 was, so there were many projects building Bitcoin payment solutions, Bitcoin merchant solution. I don't know, this Wirex thing. You've heard about Wirex, probably.
Oh, yeah.
It appeared, I guess, in 2014 or somewhere. And at that moment, most of the people that I was talking to were telling me that there is no market. So they have built the projects, but there are no consumers, and even merchants that started accepting Bitcoin, I don't know, you remember WordPress even accepted Bitcoin at the moment.
Yep.
And I even purchased something at WordPress with Bitcoin. They stopped doing that simply because there were no customers.
Yes.
And now, I guess the situation is really changing, and we see that from the ground, right? Companies are not just raising money, not going to any VCs, they raise it inside the community, right? So there is a whole market that is already using projects built inside in the community, and there are consumers inside the community. So you even don't have to go out. You can sell your products inside.
Yeah, and I think that it's resonated. This new model has really resonated with the community, that they can help spur on, the growth of the entire ecosystem using this tokenization model.
Yeah, and that's for tokenization, actually. So we started talking about, actually in our description, we we said that it all came to selling blockchain to banks, to enterprises, right? So what do you mean by that? So how does that look? How companies are now selling actually blockchains to entities?
So actually, we were somewhat into this as well with Indorse. We went through an accelerator program here called FinLab, which is a joint venture between UOB Bank and IIPL, which is a government investment arm. So we've taken an investment from bank and from government here with that company. And we were looking at helping banking becoming more efficient, specifically with trade finance. So that's a very difficult sales cycle, especially for a startup. And I think a lot of blockchain companies have had a lot of difficulty with that. Especially where they don't necessarily have the domain knowledge. You might have technical knowledge, but they don't necessarily have the domain knowledge within the industry. That's starting to become less of an issue as you have more people from the industry joining the blockchain community, learning more about the technology and trying to implement it within their organizations. So that's kind of progressing along as well. But those of us who are not necessarily domain experts are finding other use cases for the technology where we can help build an ecosystem within our own community in a way. So you now have the banking community improving themselves, becoming more efficient, and you also have our cryptocurrency community building new applications and new products, which we think will eventually disrupt many of these legacy systems in the long run.
Yeah, and as for the projects that are actually building services for in different industries, I know that just would like to go and to name them maybe even. I know that Factum is building something really interesting for enterprises, right?
Yeah, so they're building, I believe they're building in the vertical of mortgages. So being able to, or mortgages or land titles, I should say, being able to track the ownership of property, which is a really interesting use case in many locations and perhaps globally as well.
Yeah, and if we go like case by case, for example, because I'm really interested in all these blockchain implementations in different
Yeah.
industries, because
So some people are looking at, it's interesting. So Factum was originally looking at their blockchain as, just a protocol layer. And I think what they ultimately found is they have to solve a problem, right? They have to solve a very specific problem and provide that solution. And so that's why I think that they're focusing specifically at land title registration. It's a very large problem. If you can actually create a registry of a lot of these properties, that unlocks a lot of value for the owners of the property and also for the local community, as well as for the country itself, that is then able to do financing and other things based on this ownership model. So I think a lot of these blockchain companies that were looking at building blockchain protocols, they've come to the realization that actually what we need to do is solve a very specific problem and build a vertical that matches and that solves it.
yeah, and yeah, what I'm also really interested to know, it's like, you know, we, for example, at BlockShow have like a whole stage dedicated to different blockchain implementations in different industries. So, for example, blockchain in medicine, blockchain in supply chain, digital identity, or I don't know, insurance, finance. So, in your opinion, what do you think is like the most evident and the most valuable way of implementing blockchain, except finance, of course, and payments? Just I know you and accept your own projects that you're developing now.
Well, we don't build the blockchain itself. We don't build protocols. Well, we build our applications on top of it. So what we try to do is look for specific problems that we can solve. So in the case of Aderus, we're solving the problem of fraudulent certificates, fraudulent diplomas, and also the paper issue with that. So
Yeah.
we're able to very easily solve that with this technology, with digitization, with putting information onto the blockchain. In this case, we're using a private instance of the Ethereum blockchain. We hope to someday bring it to the public blockchain once scaling and other things get solved. And also with Indorse, what we're looking specifically at solving is the problem of data ownership, as well as being able to be rewarded for participating in the professional network.
Yeah, yeah. I know we will speak about Indorse in detail and about the upcoming ICO. What I would like to speak about is some kind of implementation. It can be on the top of the current existing blockchain or building a new blockchain for that. But anyway, for example, where and how we can implement this technology so that it influences the whole industry and changes it, like, and makes it absolutely different. Maybe insurance, maybe medicine, or maybe supply chain. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, maybe you've been thinking about that or talking to someone who has developed something really that
There's quite a few interesting products or projects going on here in Singapore. I know that trade finance is something that a couple of companies are trying to tackle here. That is a very big can of worms, and I definitely salute them for trying to solve that problem. Yeah, but that would be something that if they can solve it, if they can get enough of the parties on board,
what is
and
the
they
problem?
so the problem is a lot of it has to do with paper. A lot of it has to do with tracking of ownership of assets as they move around the world, and having the paperwork catch up with it, having digital signatures at all the different locations, having an import bank that doesn't necessarily communicate directly with the exporting bank. So there's a lot of different parties involved. There's a lot of missing pieces of communication that need to be solved, and there's a lot of siloed information within that industry. So if a blockchain can be implemented that all the different parties are willing to share the value of, that could really solve a lot of problems, and it could really bring down costs to you and I for a lot of the products that we're actually using.
Interesting. And it's a Singapore-based project.
So there's Singapore is definitely pushing ahead on this. That has a lot of government support. But all over the world, I know that they're trying to solve this problem.
Cool, cool. And maybe some implementations in really, really vital industries like medicine, because there is so much fraud, so much going on with medicine in developing countries, right? So many people die because of the fraud in medicine and because of counterfeiting. So, do you have any ideas of how blockchain can really help there?
So supply chain is another huge area that's full of problems involved with paperwork and siloed information. Very similar to trade finance in that way, that you have all these different parties along the chain that need to sign the fact that something happened at a specific point in time and be able to trace it back to its origin. So supply chain is another area that people, again, in Singapore, many people are looking at, and they are all over the world as well. A great example of that is, or a very easy example of that people can understand quickly, is the diamond issue, the blood diamond issue that Everledger is tackling. And I think that that's actually a very good use case of blockchain technology with a high dollar value asset that can be traced, because the diamond itself can have information embedded within it that you can then verify directly on the blockchain. So that in that case, I think it works very well for these smaller items, for IoT, or for smaller things like medicine and components of medicine that maybe it was originated in country A, the component parts of it that then get put into the final that then get what do you call it, when you metastasize it into a new product, right, later down the line. Being able to trace that all the way down the value chain, that's a more difficult process, but I think it will, if it can get solved, it will again solve a lot of problems and ultimately benefit everyone in the world.
When talking to new buys and to people in the community, even experts, many are asking questions of like how the world will look like after the implementation of blockchain into the economy, into different industries. How will that actually change the whole world? Because when we are talking like, hey, blockchain is changing the world, right? But how, and how it will look like? So is blockchain really making the thing simple? Because I believe that in order to make a world better, you should make it more simple. And in my opinion, blockchain is not always making that simple, right?
Well, I think for most people, they're not going to be aware of the fact that this is what's happening in the background, and they shouldn't be. When we develop a product, we try to keep it so simple that they're not aware that there's blockchain going on in the back end, but it's there and it's securing the information. I think that that's the ultimate goal of everything that we're building, is to make it so simple that you're not aware that cryptocurrencies are in the back end, or that the blockchain is being used to store information in the back end. We still have a long way to go with that, for sure. It's still several years away, but it's definitely a goal worth pursuing.
Yeah, because now if you are not a developer, it's very, very hard to understand. And if you, for example, are not familiar with how to do different computer things, you won't be able to buy even cryptocurrency, right, or sell. So it's really so hard. For example, now we are talking to each other via Skype. It's not Google Hangouts, but anyway, it's peer-to-peer streaming, right? And you don't care about that. And my grandma.
You don't know how VoIP works, or any of the infrastructure works, and you shouldn't.
I don't care. I'm not a developer. I don't care about the background, but I have to deal with that. I have to go deeply into technology when I'm dealing with blockchain and different cryptocurrency, right, and different blockchain projects.
And that's an important point too. I mean, you have a lot of people coming into cryptocurrency and token sales and all this now, and they do need to be aware of the fact that they must have a certain level of understanding of how it works before they really dive in deep. Otherwise, we've seen what happens in different situations where funds are stolen or they lose keys and other issues.
As for especially when you're developing a shitcoin. You've heard about shitcoin. I don't think that guys really are aware of what they are doing. They just created shitcoin, and it has collected like a couple of thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. Yeah, and
that's the name of the coin.
Shitcoin.
Okay.
Very. Yeah, it's not an investment.
I did scam coin on Counterparty a number of years ago, but I couldn't get anyone to buy it.
No one bought it.
No, no, I was trying to give them away. They wouldn't even take them for free.
Now that was the wrong time for creation. You know, if you
Yes.
created it now, that would be quietly different. It's
Yeah, I found myself ahead a few too many times on this stuff. So I found an email that I had written to somebody a couple of years ago suggesting my brokerage issuing digital tokens in order to fundraise, and
oh,
but yeah.
so you had an idea of ICOs
Hmm.
around 2 years ago, and
Yeah, so fortunately now we've evolved the model, so it's not necessarily ownership of the company anymore. You can do it in different ways now. You can do it as a utility, you can do it as a service, or you can do it as a reward system. So I think that the model has moved from pure security per dividend, whatever whatever rules those are, into a more flexible infrastructure or flexible utility play.
yeah, absolutely. And for example, in 2014, I had a company called CoinHR. So we were uh, offering people offering companies to hire people that know what Bitcoin and blockchain is. And at that moment, there was no demand, and we switched it up. And now it's really, really very, very, very on demand. So people are looking for these professionals. And if it was in 2014, but not now, that would definitely take off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So not to crown it all, I mean, the evolution of business models, and just in a few sentences, how it looks now, and what do you think it will look in the nearest future? So where we are coming to.
Yeah, so I'm incredibly amazed. Every 6 months, it seems like there's a completely new,
Yeah.
step in the evolution of the technology and step in the evolution of the business models. So right now, in the past 6 months, we've obviously seen a huge growth in the number of token offerings, specifically for rewards and utilities and things like that. We are seeing some people do it for funding, for specifically for securities offerings and other things. But I think a lot of people are also looking at it for alternative ways to do raises using utility models and things like that, which is quite cool. Sort of like like when we saw a Kickstarter kick off, and then you saw dozens of other companies follow suit, and then we started to have P2P insurance and all sorts of different products being developed. And I think we're going to see something similar in this space, where we're going to see really innovative products being built off the ability um, to have people purchase the product, pre-buy the product, and be able to finance the growth of the company through that way, or buy the service in advance of the platform being launched in order to fund it, just like we did with Ethereum, for example. So the next evolution after that, in 6 months from now, I wish I knew. Yeah, it would be, your guess would be as good as mine. So
And I totally agree with that, as they say. It's not so easy to understand and to forecast what will be in 6 months with the whole community. But but of course we can forecast the Bitcoin price. What do you think? What
take a guess on that.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you that this is not financial advice. I'm not giving a recommendation to buy or sell
Sure.
Bitcoin.
Oh, sure. None of us.
But I think now that the fork is being settled, it seems like Bitcoin is moving ahead. I certainly see in the next, I would say, 6 months, $4,000 Bitcoin seems possible. Ethereum probably back up to $400. I would hope.
Oh, I guess it will go up much more, especially about Bitcoin. I told it in my previous lives, but anyway, I can repeat that. I think that the market is so small now; it's just like $50 billion. So why it doesn't go like to trillion? Why not? Right?
No, it's possible. I mean, if you look at all crypto assets, I mean, we started with zero in 2009, and now it's almost $100 billion. So perhaps this will be, the next thing where someone is able to create a basket of crypto assets or tracking instrument for crypto assets, so that the Main Street investor can purchase something indicative of this rise in this new asset class. That would be quite interesting as well.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree with you, David. Let's go further to the ICOs and to your Indorse ICO that you're preparing now, and it's starting like in 6 days, right?
Yep. So we completed the pre-sale for that a few days ago. We had a pre-sale where we gave a bonus for people. That was started in on the 26th. We began selling the pre-sale tokens. That sold out on the 29th. So we hit our cap on that. So now we're preparing for the final sale, which will be August 8th. So that's coming up pretty soon.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the info, and let's go into questions, because I really have like some questions I would like you to answer, and I guess all of your possible investors that maybe are watching us would also like to see and to hear them. So
So I do need to make a correction there. They're not investors. What they're doing is they're buying the token.
sorry.
That is a service token for use on the platform.
Yes, for sure, they're supporters, and yeah. So my first question is like, the idea of a decentralized professional network as you're building, right? It's not so young, firstly, and so why did you decide to do that? Because as I understand, the market is not as big. Um,
Oh, it's actually quite large. So to start with, we got into this because we were doing a pilot with Nean Polytechnic for the digital certificates, digital diplomas on the blockchain, and part of the project was to push this certificate into social networks because they wanted to see how the students, if the students were going to get recruited by this, how interactive were they going to be with sites like LinkedIn? Would recruiters come in and poach them potentially out of it, which is something that the university wants to happen because they want their students to find jobs after leaving university. So we were looking at that, and it was interesting. But we started to see some problems with the model, with the network model itself. That when you push this information to these networks, you're handing over your information to them to start with. You're giving ownership essentially of that to them as part of their terms and services, terms and conditions, T&Cs. But the other part of it too was you're handing this over to them. You're helping them build the network, and yes, you are gaining the advantage of the network effect as as you can reach out to more people. But you're not gaining the advantages of the revenue that the site itself is generating, right? So
yeah.
when LinkedIn, for example, places an ad on your profile, or you see an ad as the user or as the person who created this profile, you're not getting any of that revenue, right? You're not getting any of that growth that the platform itself is getting. So we started to look at what we were doing in Adoris as far as the digital diplomas and the ability to show that you have a certain skill or a certain certification. And we started to look bigger than that. And we started to look at tokenization and rewards for posting this information onto a platform. And that's what brought us to the idea of Indorse, to be able to post your claim, to be able to post your skill to the platform, and then have the other members of the platform, basically the crowd of the platform, endorse it and validate the fact that it was a true claim to the best of their ability.
Very, very interesting. And so it's like a platform where, for example, if you worked somewhere or if you created it from somewhere, you upload it all on the blockchain, and all of the other people can endorse you and prove that that's really true. So
Yeah, so I mean, it works especially well with things that have very binary outcomes, things that are relatively straightforward to check. For example, can you code JavaScript? You would put up your GitHub repository.
okay.
You put up samples of your work, things like that, which can be relatively easily validated by people who have a certain level of skill in that area. So that would become one of your skills, and that's extremely valuable actually for people to essentially advertise to you or to recruit you. And if this is going to happen, it's going to happen if you're on LinkedIn, it's going to happen anywhere. But as the person providing this information, you should be getting a reward for this. You should be getting some of that revenue that the platform is getting for providing this information to the recruiter or to the HR agency.
So if I'm endorsing someone, I'm getting rewards for that. From whom? From the person?
Absolutely.
From the platform?
So you get rewards from the platform as well. So what happens is when a recruiter or an advertising agency, they come to the platform and they have to purchase certain credits or certain ads on the platform using our token, the IND token. That token then gets distributed among the members who have earned rewards by placing claims about what they can do. and by the other members who have endorsed those claims.
And if, for example, I'm just like a scammer and I would like to endorse everyone.
Yeah. So yeah, we have some tricks up our sleeves to help prevent that from happening. One of the things we're going to be doing is to basically creating a fake profile, and that should be downvoted, or a fake claim that should be downvoted, and it isn't. It's being upvoted. So that would affect your reputation on the system if you were to upvote a false claim or a frivolous claim. So we have a reputation scoring system on the platform as well. And this actually goes well beyond our specific vertical or our specific use case. This sort of scoring mechanism, or this sort of reputation system, as well as reward mechanism, can be used in multiple applications beyond the specific use case that we're building. So as I said earlier, it's important for a company to actually focus on a specific use case. So this is the initial use case that we're looking at, but we see the protocol itself, or the platform itself, being utilized in many different areas.
Got it. And so the most evident use case is just like I work somewhere, I upload my profile, my colleagues come and endorse me for the skills and prove that I'm really was working there and I achieved these and that goals. So it's like LinkedIn.
It's somewhat similar to that, yes. It's more for the specific skills than necessarily the location and things like that you worked. So for example, I don't, maybe you say I can do a professional interview. So you'd put up your post to your YouTube videos, and then that would be relatively trivial for me to go and validate. So that's actually a very good example of how the system could work.
Okay, yeah, very interesting and valuable. But as for competition, you said that it's similar to LinkedIn. So your competitors are LinkedIn, and in the blockchain community, it's like Steemit, right?
Steemit is close. Steemit has more to do with articles and uploading articles themselves. There's not as much downside to Steemit if you're not uploading, or there's really no downvote to Steemit. Everyone just kind of upvotes, right? And they have a somewhat of a prediction system based on that as well. But that's a specific use case for content, which is great. And I like Steemit. But for this specific use case, we have a slightly different model of a consensus by endorsement, as well as reputation system within that.
And have you heard about Akasha?
Akasha. So it's been a while since I've looked at that one. Yeah.
It's I guess it's very similar to what you're doing, and it's a really, really interesting project as well, with Vitalik Buterin as an advisor, as I remember. So have you thought of how you're planning to compete actually with I don't know, with LinkedIn, with Akasha, and
so with the traditional networks, we have an interesting reward mechanism that they don't currently have. So we can actually reward people for participating in the platform. We can reward people for introducing new people to the platform. We can do all these interesting things because of the tokenization model that I don't think a traditional network can do. And it gives us a lot more flexibility. We can also allow components of our system to be used within other systems as well. So for example, if you have a freelancer site, you might want to tap into our platform for either rewards or for reputation as part of your site.
So if I'm, for example, if I have a freelance site with like millions of people monthly, I can implement it on your
yeah. So
really?
we'll have APIs available that will allow you to tap into our user base, and hopefully we can also maybe perhaps pull in some of your users into our platform as well to start building reputation for their skills within Indorse.
Oh, that's a great thing. And the main intention of freelance site creators and owners do that is this reputation and reward system, right? So that's the thing. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if Akasha is doing that, for example, but it's really cool. But I guess you know because these are your competitors. Okay, really cool. And so let's go more in detail into the ICO that you're planning to. So you are doing that like in order to raise capital, in order to create the platform.
So yeah, I mean, it's also to help build the user base because we do see our early adopters as the community people themselves. So this gives us a way to incentivize them to participate in the platform as well. And it also helps to bootstrap the platform in that way.
Got it. I've seen that your cap is like 50, tell me if I'm wrong, 50,000 ethers.
Yes, correct.
So it's something around 10 million US dollars.
Correct.
Yeah, I've seen the roadmap where you say that around 65% goes to the development, around 20 to marketing, and tell me if I'm wrong, something goes to founders and for legal stuff.
So out of the Ether, no, the Ether does not go to the founders. We're holding some of the tokens that we're issuing for the founders and for the team members and things like that. But the Ether itself goes towards development, goes towards marketing, goes towards the business development stuff. And we're actually going to be selling 35% of the total tokens in this token sale and holding 40% for a future sale about 2 years from now. Very traditional model where we're building the platform, we're getting early traction, and then later on we'll go ahead and sell more tokens in order to scale up and to really hit marketing hard.
Yeah, got it. And I'm really always very interested to know. So I've seen the roadmap, and I just have 2 questions. As you are my guest today, we'll ask you this question. So the first one is like, it's 10 million, right? So why so much? The first thing, and second is, when do you think you like, as for the roadmap, when do you think you're going to show like the first version, and then so when are you actually planning to have the next round? You've said it's in 2 years. So in 2 years, you will spend this $10 million, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, developers are not cheap, especially very good developers. So that's going to be the major expense over the next couple of years is basically hiring great developers to help build out the platform. There is going to be some money spent on marketing as well. That's a big part because we do need to have users coming onto the platform and using it. Early on, the market that we're obviously going after is the cryptocurrency market to start with. But because of the incentive system itself, we think we can grow well beyond that. We can go Main Street with this platform. This is a great platform too because it isn't just the crypto community that we're looking at as far as users of the platform. This is a very Main Street platform, where if you pitch it to somebody, in fact, I talk to my friends all the time about this, and I say, well, you could be earning for all these posts that you're doing to LinkedIn about yourself. Would you, rather do it on there, or would you rather do it on what we're building? So actually, I'd rather do it on what you guys are building. That's more appealing to me. So there seems to be something there. There also seems to be something in the minds of people as far as their dissatisfaction with the current platforms. If you ask people about their usage of LinkedIn, they're generally not so satisfied with it. It's become somewhat calcified. Especially if you look at like company pages, for example, which is something we're not doing initially, but we're certainly looking at for future modules. There really has not been anything truly innovative on that part. So companies cannot come on and they cannot really create a really beautiful presence on LinkedIn, and they can't go to the users of LinkedIn and say, hey, why don't you tell us what you think of this brand or this product, and perhaps we can give you a reward for that, or and then that reputation system.
Yeah, you can do that in LinkedIn.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting things that we can build using these new models, using rewards, using voting, for example, the endorsement mechanism that I think can't be done now with the existing system that I think we can do. And yeah, so that's where the funds are going to be going into building that awesome system. So as far as the roadmap, right now we're building a proof of concept. I believe we're going to have something for private testing later on, either next week or the week after. And then we'll be opening that up for public testing soon after that, because we do want to get feedback from the community on it. We want people using it as soon as we can in order to make sure that we're building the thing that people actually want to use.
Yeah, as for the actual community thing that you've mentioned, I guess that's the main competitive advantage of the blockchain projects in front of the current one. So, for example, that's a great thing. Your project is backed by the community. All this blockchain stuff is really, the community of projects is really strong, and you can just address something to that, and they will send you huge dozens of messages saying like, okay, this is pros, this is cons, how it's better to do that. So yeah, for example, in your project, it will be very easy to address the question and to reward for the best answers, I don't know, for the best solutions. So that's really cool. In LinkedIn, that's not possible for now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I've also seen that you're going to send the money back if you don't raise the minimum amount, right?
Yeah, so we've already hit that minimum, so that's not an issue.
Oh, really? What was the minimum? It's like
it was 15,000 ETH.
Oh,
so we raised about 14,000 in the contract part of the sale, and we had another few thousand in private placements. So we really hit that number.
Oh, got it. That's pretty successful.
Yeah, so we're very happy with the response that we've gotten back from the community. We're very humbled by it. It's been really awesome.
Cool. And maybe you will be able to showcase and to announce something at BlockShow Asia already.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. I know. I think I'm going to be speaking on two different topics. One about the diploma certificates, and then the other one about the about Indorse's token sale. So that'll be a lot of fun to do.
Yeah. So if you will have some, I don't know, a project already to release the show, so that everyone could test it. It will be cool.
That is an awesome idea, and I'm gonna talk to my co-founder about that, actually.
Yeah, we are about revealing blockchain sensations, so why not show the first platform like this right at BlockShow? Okay.
That's great.
David, thanks so much for today's valuable discussion, for providing your opinion on actually the business models and the future, talking about your ICO, and really, thanks so much. And I'm really looking forward to meeting you in person at BlockShow Asia, and I'm certain you will provide a lot of value to all of our friends, visitors, current watchers, and other people.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting you as well, and I hope to see everyone here in Singapore. If you see me at the conference, please walk up and say hi, and we'll exchange cards and talk crypto. Yeah,
so you already told it for me. I again invite everyone to BlockShow Asia in November. See you all, guys. That was just a little part of the discussions that you will see at the show. At the show, there will be as well a lot of lights, music, and it will be a lot of fun. I can't do a lot of fun in my office, but at the show it will be pretty different. So see you all, guys. Thanks, David. That was Eric Rizzi, David Moskowitz. See ya, and bye-bye.